She just walked off the track seconds before the biggest race of her year, and nobody knew if her entire summer had just collapsed in front of millions of people. What you are about to hear is the real reason Keely Hodgkinson pulled out, what her own team said behind closed doors, and why one specific night in London could change the history of women's athletics forever. Stay with me until the end, because the final part of the story involves a number that has not been touched in over 40 years, and what happens next could either make Hodgkinson immortal or break the heart of an entire nation. Before we go further, if you want to see exactly how this plays out, hit subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because this story is moving fast, and you do not want to miss the next update. Let's set the scene. Birmingham, the UK Athletics Championships. A Sunday afternoon that was supposed to be routine. This was not even her main event. This was a tune-up. Keely Hodgkinson, the reigning Olympic champion in the women's 800 meters, was running the 400 meters here. Not because she was switching events, but because her coaching team believed the short sprint work was the missing piece to unlock something historic later in the summer. She had already cleared her heat on Saturday without any drama. She was through to the final. Everything looked normal. Then Sunday morning happened, and within minutes the entire mood around British athletics changed. During her warm-up, she felt something in her hamstring. Not a tear, not a pop, nothing dramatic in the moment, just a tightness that most people would have shaken off. But Hodgkinson is not most people, and she has lived through a version of this story before, one that cost her more than a year of her career. So she made a decision that very few professional athletes are willing to make on a stage like this. She walked away. She did not start the final. She stood on the infield as her competitors raced without her, and cameras caught her visibly emotional, because stepping back is never as easy as it sounds, especially for someone who has spent her whole life being told to push through pain. Now here's where I need you to pay attention, because this single decision could be the smartest move of her entire career, or it could be the moment that fans look back on nervously if the next few weeks do not go to plan. So let's talk about who Keely Hodgkinson actually is, and why the whole sport has been watching her so closely in 2026. She was born in March of 2002 in Atherton, Greater Manchester, and she was winning age group European titles before most people her age had finished school. By 19, she was already standing on an Olympic podium in Tokyo with a silver medal and a new British record. The pattern that followed was almost cruel in its consistency. Silver at the World Championships in 2022. Silver again in 2023. Every time, agonizingly close to gold. Every time improving. Every time being told she was almost there. Then came Paris 2024, and finally, after years of knocking on the door, she ran through it and took Olympic gold. Her coaches, Trevor Painter and Jenny Meadows, a husband and wife pairing working out of Manchester, had built her into a genuine global force, and World Athletics had already recognized their work with a coaching award. You would think gold in Paris would be the peak of the story. It was not even close. 2026 is when things stopped looking like progress and started looking like history. In February, she traveled to Leiden in France and ran an indoor world record in the 800 meters, a time that had not been touched since 2002. And here is a detail that almost feels scripted by fate itself. The previous record had been set on the exact same calendar date as her own birth. She broke a record that was set on the day she was born. A few weeks later, she backed that up with gold at the World Indoor Championships, running the second fastest indoor 800 meters ever recorded, beaten only by her own world record from weeks before. At this point, the whispers in the sport were no longer about whether she could win. They were about whether anyone alive could actually beat her on a given day. And then someone did. In Stockholm, in June, a 22-year-old Swiss athlete named Audrey Werro produced one of the greatest 800-meter performances in the history of women's track, dipping under 1 minute 54 seconds, something that had not happened in nearly 43 years. Hodgkinson finished second, but pay close attention to what second actually meant here, because her time was still a new British record and the fastest losing run in the history of the event. She had just run one of the fastest 800 meters ever recorded by a woman, and she still did not win. Afterward, she made it clear in her own words that she still believed the world record belonged to her, and that she did not intend to let that result repeat itself. So now you understand the stakes walking into Birmingham. This was supposed to be one more controlled step on the road to something enormous. Instead, the world got a scare. But almost as fast as the panic started, Hodgkinson moved to shut it down herself. Speaking right after the withdrawal, she said she was not feeling fully right standing on the start line. So she made the difficult call to step away rather than risk anything with the bigger picture in mind. Later that night, she posted directly to her fans, explaining that she was leaving the championships healthy, that sometimes a harder decision is the one where you say no, and that there was still an exciting summer ahead. When worried fans pushed for more detail, people close to her confirmed that this was purely precautionary, that she had completed her cool-down, been checked by a physiotherapist, and been cleared with no damage done. The message was simple. The plan for London has not changed. Now I want you to think about what that actually tells us, because this is a part most people scroll past without realizing how big it is. An athlete who lost over a year of her career, 376 days sidelined with hamstring-related injuries heading into 2025, an athlete who had to rebuild from almost nothing. Racing only twice that entire season before clawing her way to a bronze medal at the World Championships in Tokyo, that athlete now has the discipline to walk away from a national final the moment something feels even slightly off. That is not weakness. That is exactly the kind of decision that separates athletes who fade out from athletes who become legends. But it does raise one question that nobody can answer yet, and I will come back to that in a moment. So stick around. Let's talk about the rival in this story, because you cannot understand what is coming in London without understanding Audrey Werro. Her run in Stockholm was not a fluke performance against a tired field. It was a statement that there are now two women on this planet operating at a level the 800 meters has not seen in decades. The conversation in elite track circles has shifted entirely. It is no longer a question of whether the outright world record falls, the one that has stood since 1983, run by Jarmila Kratochvilova at 1 minute 53.28. It is now a question of when it falls, and whose name ends up next to it. So here's where this story is heading, and this is the part one need you to remember. The Diamond League meet in London has already been publicly named by Hodgkinson's own camp as her target window for the world record attempt. Audrey Werro will be on that same start list. Her training numbers out of Manchester, the 400-meter splits her coaches have been clocking, have reportedly been sitting around 49.1 seconds, numbers that suggest the physical capability for a world record attempt is genuinely there. The British crowd, the home stadium, the timing in her own career, all of it has been building toward this one specific night. But here is the tension nobody can resolve yet. She just pulled out a national final because of hamstring tightness, the exact injury that cost her over a year of her life before. Was Birmingham simply her body sending an early warning that got caught in time, or was it a sign that something deeper still not fully resolved heading into the most important race of her career? Her team says she is fine. Her actions say she is being careful. And in a sport where one wrong step can erase years of work in a single moment, careful might be exactly the right word. What happens next in London will not just decide whether a world record falls. It will decide who really owns the 800 meters going into a summer that already includes the European Championships in August on home soil in Birmingham again, with Werro very likely standing right next to her on that start line one more time. This rivalry is not a single race story anymore. It is shaping up to be one of the defining storylines in track and field for years to come, and the next few weeks are about to tell us exactly how it begins. If you want to see how this actually plays out when she steps back on that track, make sure you are subscribed, because the moment London happens, you will want to already be here waiting for it.